Hello, shall we wait for other people, or is there someone who is supposed to say, yeah, let's start, or no?
I think people have kind of like said themselves, very few out there.
Okay, great. Well, hello.
Yeah.
Welcome to this session. I'm really happy to be in front of you today to talk about Power BI. My name is Tristan. I'm gonna quickly present myself. So, I am a Power BI consultant at Azeo, which is a Microsoft partner in France. I'm mostly in charge of developing Power BI activities around consulting services, trainings, and awareness, because we clearly need it in France. Back in February 2017, I co-founded the Paris Power BI user group, namely Club Power BI. Maybe you have heard about it. We are quite active on the social networks such as Twitter, LinkedIn, and so on. It's quite exciting to see the French community growing so fast. We have something like 450 members already, and we organize monthly meetups in Paris for the moment, and maybe later on in other cities, about any topics related to Power BI, such as DAX, Power Query, data visualization, but also Power Apps, Flow. So if you come to Paris, just feel free to join us. We will be more than happy to welcome you, either for attending or even speaking at this event. Obviously, it's better if you can speak or understand French, because as you may know, French people are not that good in English, and all our events are in French. But yeah. Also, feel free to follow me on Twitter and LinkedIn. I share a lot of things on these social networks about Power BI, data analytics, data visualization, including my own Power BI dashboards. So, the session of today is about Lionel Messi and Power BI. I'm going to show you how I built this Power BI dashboard that you can see just here on the football player Lionel Messi. So, just a notice before we start. Even if you are not a real soccer fan, or even if you hate Lionel Messi and prefer Cristiano Ronaldo, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I will still make sure you enjoy this session and you can catch some good stuff using Power BI. Okay? So, actually, we're gonna rebuild not this page, but the first page of the report. We're gonna rebuild it together, and I'll make sure I'll share with you some Power BI tips and tricks, and some best practices I learned in my Power BI journey. So, how many of you know the data stories gallery? Have you heard about it? Yeah? So it's basically a website from the community.powerbi.com website. And it's basically an area where people can submit Power BI data stories about any topics. So it's on community website. I really recommend you to go and check out this website. Information. I think we'll share the slides, and I will put it on the slides. So yeah, just for information. So yeah, there are, I don't know, hundreds of dashboards from so many people all around the world. And actually, Microsoft organizes a monthly contest. So each month there is a topic, and you have to submit data stories on this topic or in any topics actually. And there are some winners, and the winners can earn a T-shirt, a badge from the community, and at least some recognition, which is already pretty good, right? So the dashboard I've just shown you on Lionel Messi, I submitted on this data stories gallery, and I was not the grand winner, but I was part of the winners. So I didn't get the T-shirt, but that's okay. So let's begin. So what you saw here in the gallery and what you see here, I would say is the end result. So when I present Power BI to my clients and to people at the Club Power BI in France, I like to show this image, this analogy of the iceberg. This is the visible part of the dashboard, right? But as you can imagine, I had to perform a lot of things before I could end up with this result. So I just list these elements here, and obviously you could apply any of the elements I'm gonna list to all your projects in Power BI. First, you need some data, right? You need to connect to some sources. Second part, I'm sure this is your favorite one, the cleansing part. Most of the time, the data you have just imported is not very clean, right? So you need to reshape it, you need to reorganize it in order to prepare your data for analysis. Then some modeling. I guess you have many tables in your models. You want to create some relationships between the tables and so on. So this is where the modeling comes in. Then some analysis, creating some KPIs, probably using DAX to create my custom KPIs and answer my business questions. Then some visualization, choosing the best graphs, the best colors, and so on. And then some sharing. You want to share these elements to other people. Once and only once you performed all these steps, you're able to deliver a really insightful dashboard that other people can benefit from, right? And I think this is really important because Power BI is not just another data visualization tool.
Right? To evacuate.
Okay.
Attention, please. Attention, please. We are investigating an alarm condition. It may be necessary to evacuate the building. Please listen for further announcements.
It may be necessary. So let's wait.
Attention, please. Attention, please. We are investigating an alarm condition. It may be necessary to evacuate the building. Please listen for further announcements. Attention, please. Attention, please. We are investigating an alarm condition. It may be necessary to evacuate the building. Please listen for further announcements. Attention, please. Attention, please. We are investigating an alarm condition. It may be necessary to evacuate the building. Please listen for further announcements.
If you see some fire just behind it, just tell me. Okay, so sorry for that. I was saying, only once you perform all these steps, you can share the dashboard. And yes, Power BI is not just another. Okay, thanks. It's much more than a data visualization tool, right? And this slide shows it. Well, with this slide in mind, we have more or less the agenda of the session of today. Okay, I'm gonna show you how Power BI can really help you in each of these steps, give you some comfort, some autonomy, and I will obviously use the example of the dashboard I built on Lionel Messi. So, one more thing that we should always ask ourselves before going into the tool. What do I need, right? Power BI is a great tool for producing really beautiful dashboards, but at the end of the day, the real objective of self-service BI is to provide tools that can support decision-making, that can help you better monitor your business and your activities and so on. So before, and I think this is a risk, I see so many clients doing this, go and using Power BI, and within 5 minutes, you're just lost into the ocean of data in your company, right? So before, you should make the effort to ask yourself this question: what do I need? What do I want to measure? So in this context, in the context of Lionel Messi, I was like, okay, what are the KPIs? What are the metrics I want to see in my dashboard? So we're going to build a very simple dashboard, not advanced analytics. I just want to see simple metrics such as the games played by the player, the goals per game, the assists, quite a good KPI as well to measure the influence of the player, and probably the percentage of games won. Okay, so these are the metrics. In BI, we talk about facts. And now the dimensions. How do I want to see these metrics? So I clearly focused on 2 dimensions: the calendar, because I want to see these metrics over time, and then the competition, because I want to be able to see each of these metrics for specific competitions such as Liga, Champions League, and so on. Power BI is optimized for a tabular star schema modeling, so you should always keep your facts and dimensions separate in a star schema, right? So this is what I need. Last thing, the data source. Obviously, first step of the iceberg, we need to get some data, right? So after a few research on the web, I found this pretty good website, which has been created by a journalist in the Netherlands. He's a data specialist and a real fan of Barcelona, FC Barcelona. So I'm just gonna quickly show you the website. So this is here. So yeah, this is the website. Amazing stuff. You can see all the stats of the player in a very nice format. So for example, here I have all the games played by Messi since he started in 2004, I guess. So yeah, pretty awesome stuff.
Does he only cover Lionel Messi on his website? Or
good question. I think he added like some, MSN, which doesn't exist anymore because Neymar came to Paris, right? But I think he's gonna cover the same kind of statistics for Suarez as well. If you follow him on Twitter, you will see many posts from him. So yeah, this is the data source. So let's get to the slides. Now we know where we are going. We identified a clear perimeter of what we need. We have the data source. Now we can use Power BI. So I just have Power BI here. Yep. So first type of the iceberg, I'm gonna get some data. So I'm gonna actually grab this this page here, which shows me all the games played by Messi and also the goals, assists, and so on. So as you can see, I have already here pretty much all the information that I need. So I will just use the URL, go to get data. I'll use the web connector, which is part of the maybe 70 or 80 connectors now in Power BI. I'm simply gonna paste the URL and Power BI will do the job. It's gonna connect to the source, detect all the tables which are on the website. I'm quite lucky because this guy has been doing an amazing job. So the data is already pretty much nicely formatted. I have only one HTML document, which is totally useless, and the table that I want to grab. right? So I have the preview on the right side. I'm gonna tick. I can either load the data or edit. When I edit, it opens, as you know, the query editor, which is supposed to be your best friend in Power BI, okay? Because it really helps you reshape the data, prepare it. Second step of the iceberg, you have some steps which are recorded, and the underlying language which is running behind is called the M language. It allows all your steps to be recorded and then automated. You can at any time delete or amend these steps. So we're gonna do a little bit of cleansing. As I said, we are a bit lucky because the data here doesn't really represent a business context, because in this case, it's already pretty nice. First thing, maybe I can rename this table. I'm gonna call it main because this will be our main table. So this is clearly not the most interesting part of this demo. I know people generally don't really like cleaning data, but as you may know, this is probably the most important one, right? Because you must have heard about the theory of, thank you, garbage in, garbage out, right? If you have poor data at the start, it will be very difficult to build insightful dashboards, right? So I'm gonna share with you some tips and tricks. I think the first thing that you should always do in Power Query is to use this one, which is for some reason not very popular. Choose columns. It allows you to pick the relevant columns that you want to keep in your model. And trust me, this is really useful, especially when you have hundreds of columns, okay? You want to reach a particular one, which is go to column, okay? In this case, not very useful because I don't have so many columns, only 13 actually. But trust me, this is really useful, and for some reason, it's not yet that popular. So I'm gonna choose columns, and best practice is quite obvious, remove all the useless columns. Power BI, the storage engine, uses columnar storage, so it doesn't store the data row by row, but column by column. So just get rid of the columns that you don't need.
I don't use this tool, this aspect myself.
Yeah, so just sorry, I'm interrupting you. I will do the session. Can we ask the question at the end? Is it possible? Thank you very much. So I'll just keep the relevant ones. So the date, competition, because I made the effort to identify what I needed at first, right? And the goals and assists. So these are the columns I want to keep. I'm gonna rename my headers because think about it, we are in a self-service BI context. These headers are the fields that your business users will find where they will drag and drop in the report view. So you need to make them really understandable. I'm gonna make sure this one is a date and this one should be integers, right? Whole number, yeah. So, okay, quite good. In a few steps, we have something pretty clean. Maybe you would tell me that the competition column is not that clean because I don't know if you can see it, but yeah, you know, you have like these first 3 letters and then the actual name of the competition. A best practice is not to apply so many steps on the fact table. This is a fact table. In your business, it can be much larger than here where I have 700 rows. You should not perform so many advanced transformations on your fact tables because this can be very heavy in terms of consumption and performance. So the best practice is instead to use a mapping table, a dimension table, which will make the mapping between this column, okay, and the actual name of the competition that I want to see on my dashboard. So we'll do it in a sec. I'm gonna actually grab another table because there is one information missing here, one metric that I identified at first, but that I don't really find here, is the victories. I mean, for this game, has Messi won or not? So at this stage, I have the scores and so on. So I could use custom columns. I could add some columns with if statements or maybe lists functions, list functions, to know who actually won, okay? But I'm gonna show you another method so I can introduce you to Power Query functions. So I'm gonna grab another table, which is from obviously, sorry, the same website. And actually this one is a little bit more tricky, simply because I have the list of the games, and this drop-down menu tells me, okay, is it a won, draw, or lost? But this information changes the URL. Actually, it only changes this particular number, right? So this is the game 1, number 3, games draw. The URL is exactly the same, except this small number, and the same for games lost, okay? So what we could do is to raise 3 separate queries and then append the table using Power Query, but we'll do something way smarter. We'll use parameters and functions. So just let's go ahead. I'm gonna grab this table, and I will grab a new source from the web. Take this one. I will grab the table, which is pretty much the same as the table before, but I know that these are only the games that were actually lost by Messi, right? So this is my table. I'm gonna import it. Okay, great. So this is my table. What I'm gonna do is, as I said, I'm gonna make this small part, okay, I'm gonna make it dynamic. So to do so, I'm gonna turn this query into a function. So you can go to the advanced editor, right? So this is, as I said, the M language, which is running behind when you are applying some steps on Power Query. And you're gonna see how simple it is to turn a query into a function. So if you remember, if you have some memories of your mathematics, you may remember that a function, a mathematical function, always has at least one parameter, right? So I'm gonna show you how you can pass a parameter in Power Query. Pretty simple. I'm just gonna say page as text, okay? I'm gonna close the brackets and do this. So this is how I'm creating a parameter within a query. And then I will use this parameter in my URL, and page, and I remove this one. So this is how I make my URL dynamic, by turning this query into a function. And as you can see right now, here, sorry, this is a query, this is a function. And this function will allow me to grab very easily the content of the 3 separate tables I've shown you just before on the web page, right? So I'm gonna call this function get results, right? And as you can see, I can invoke the functions. For example, if I type in 3, I will grab the games that were actually won by Messi. I can invoke 4 and 5 and so on. But we're gonna do something a little bit smarter. I'm gonna create a parameter table. So I'm gonna just get rid of these useless tables. And so as you may know, you can enter data manually in Power Query. This is very useful when you want to create some kind of parameter tables. So that's what I will do here. I'm gonna enter some data. I will just put code. So 3, 4, 5, right? So this corresponds to, if I remember well, won, draw, lost. Okay, so I'm just creating a parameter table, which I'm gonna call results. Okay, so this is a brand new table that I created manually. And thus I'm gonna be able to add a column and leverage the function I just created. So as I think you know it, you can create some custom columns in Power Query. And the good news is that you can use the functions that you have just created in your columns. So I'm gonna say invoke the custom function to add a column to this table. So invoke a function. I'm gonna call it results. I'm gonna invoke this function, get results, and I will just pass as a parameter code this part of the table, this column. Okay, and I get all the results for the games won, draw, and lost. You have the preview of each of the table at the bottom, right? So as you can see, this is really a dynamic method. And these functions are really powerful. I really encourage you to leverage their power to grab data. So I'm simply now gonna expand the table, okay? And again, I'm gonna keep only the columns that I want to have on my dashboard. So goals and assists, per date and competition. But I have some more information because now I have the code and also the result of the game. So I don't need to create custom columns and determine which is the score and who won and so on. So actually, this is pretty much the same table as this one, but I have an information more, which is the result. So actually, I don't need this table anymore. Okay, I'm just gonna get rid of this. And this will be my main table, right? Okay, great. So we start to have something pretty good. I'm gonna get rid of this column. I don't need it anymore. I'm gonna rename this date as before, competition, goals, and assist. Good. So again, data formats, best practice, always applies this at the end of your queries. Oops, sorry. Just gonna date. This has to be a text. And this will be a whole number. Great. So this table is pretty good, very useful. Now, as I said, you always need to keep separate dimensions and facts. So this is my main fact table. I'm going to create two dimensions that we identified, the competition one, right? And the calendar one. So I start with the competition. Actually, I think, yeah, I have a small table here that I'm going to grab. I could either raise a query from this table using the Excel connector, or I will simply copy and paste it here in my enter data, because I know that this kind of data is not supposed to change over time. And this will make my refresh much easier because I won't have to manage two different sources, which are the Excel and the web part. This one will be internal to my PBIX file. And this is very useful when your data is not supposed to change over time. Well, unless Messi does the same choice as Neymar and goes to Paris, but I don't expect that he does so. So this will be my competition table. And as you can see, I'm basically doing a mapping between the name that you find on the fact and the real name of the competition I want to see on my dashboard, plus something important. I just wanted to add an information about the type of the competition. Is it with his club or national? Great. So this is my competition table. Pretty good. A best practice I can show you. Have you ever heard of grouping queries in Power Query? This is very useful when you have many tables, which is not the case here, but I'm here to show you some best practices as well. So I'm gonna simply create a group, which I'm gonna call maybe facts. In this group, I will put my fact table, and I will create a new group called dimensions, where I will put my competition one. Okay, so this is a best practice when you have many tables. Okay, one last table I need is a calendar table, because I want to see all these metrics over time. So I have a date here, but the best practice is to have another separate table, which is dedicated to time, in order to perform time intelligence calculations. So this is really a best practice, and there are several ways to create calendar tables in Power BI. You can use the DAX language to do so, because DAX can be used as a query language. You can also grab fixed calendar tables from Excel, Access, or SQL Server, or I don't know, any sources. But because we are in the query editor and because we love it, I'm gonna show you how you can also leverage functions and functions to create calendars. So I have here a small code, I think, yep. So this is a name code that I generated to create my calendar table. I'm just gonna copy, create a blank query. So this is a blank query which has nothing. I will go to the advanced editor and paste my code. So now you're already at ease with functions. These are the parameters that I want to use in my functions. So at first, I did exactly the same way as I've shown you when I grabbed data from the Messi websites. I had a query about some dates and so on, and then I turned it into a function because I want to allow my user to create himself within the query editor his custom calendar. Okay, so these are the parameters of this calendar table. I'm just gonna click done. So again, this is a function which I'm gonna invoke to create my calendar table. The real advantage of this method is that, again, the source of your data will be within the PBIX file, my Power BI desktop file. So it will be much easier to maintain. I clearly have an impact on it. And also it will be much easier to refresh because this is internal to the file, right? So I could actually make these parameters dynamic and, for example, create a calendar between the first date, which is in the fact table, and the last date, which is in the fact table. But I just wanted to show you the parameters of calendars queries. So I think the data starts on this date. And we're gonna put as an end date, why not today? This third parameter is quite important. I don't know if there are soccer fans in the room, but as you may know, in sports and especially in football, there is the calendar year, right? But there is also the football year, which does not match to the calendar year, right? At nearly on the 13th of August of each year, the season switches, right? We just started the brand new season, which is 2017, 2018. I wanted to have this information on my dashboard because I wanted my users to be able to switch between calendar and football years. So this parameter just tells me, okay, when does the season switch? So I'm gonna invoke the function. And again, this creates my calendar table where I have one row per date between all the dates I've mentioned in the parameter and all the information I need to analyze my data. For example, year, month, quarter, football season. I really encourage you to make your dimensions as complete as possible, simply because these tables will make your analysis very powerful. You will give your business users and yourself the ability to drill down, to focus, to adjust the grain of your analysis. And generally, if you have some storage considerations, we observe that all the dimension tables in general, they represent only 20% of the total storage of your model. So just put everything that you can put here in these dimensions because this will bring depth to your analysis. Okay, so I'm gonna rename this calendar. And this is a dimension table, okay, or lookup table, or reference table, whatever you want. So I'll just put it here. Okay, so actually best practice to name this get calendar. Okay, so we spent quite a lot of time on preparing and cleaning our data. That was not the most exciting part, but now it's gonna make our life so much easier. The data model will be very simple. I have very simple metrics. It's very simple tables that I made the effort to clean. And this will be from now much easier to analyze and visualize our data. There is one thing I'm gonna do. One last thing is in this query, I'm just gonna show you a best practice is always to separate the core of a source to the parameters. So I'm just gonna use a parameter of the web contents function. So I think this will be like this, relative path, just to make sure that my actual sources is this one, and the path I'm gonna make it dynamic is this one. This will have an impact on my refresh. Okay, nope, show me error. Relative path. Yeah, probably it's because of this. Well, that's strange. And page relative path. So we have to be careful because M is case sensitive. And okay, so we're not gonna do this. Strange. Okay, anyway. So I'm gonna close these tables, right? Because I'm gonna close the query editor and load the updated version of these tables that I just cleaned. So close and apply, and this will basically load the updated version of the tables. Okay, now the third step of the iceberg, if you remember well, is the modeling part. So I want to create a data model to create some relationships between these tables. So that's what you can do here. Here it's pretty obvious. I have one fact table, which I'm gonna link to the dimensions here. So there are two conditions to create a relationship between tables in Power BI. The first one is your existence, you need the common key. And the second one is you have to have uniqueness from one side of the relationship. You have to have unique values, at least from one side of the relationship. So this will be always the case in your dimension tables, right? Which are supposed to be complete and which are supposed to associate uniquely each code to its corresponding values. So here I can link my code to my competition field, and I will link my dates, which are unique here, to my date here. So a few comments. As you can see in this data model, so this is my fact table. With this relationship, I can see the common key. It has a one to many relationship, which flows from the dimension to the table, right? Here, my competition repeats. Here, it's unique. In this case, I have a one-to-one relationship because this fact table is quite particular. I have only one date per row again on this table because my grain is at the game level, right? So each date is unique here and here as well. But because I made the effort to create one date per row here, I will have much more abilities to custom my time intelligence analysis. Okay, so this is our data model, pretty simple. Now the fourth step of the iceberg, the analysis part. So this is where you create your KPIs and so on. So I'm gonna go, oh yeah, one more thing I want to show you here, which is really, really useful, especially in a self-service BI context. You want to make the experience of your business users as convenient as possible. And there is one thing which is pretty useful is the hide in report. Hide in report, which is pretty useful. Let me explain. These columns, dates and competition, I need them to create the relationship, right? But I don't want my business users or those who are going to use my report to slice the data through these keys, right? I want them to use the dimensions to slice the data. First, because these dimensions have more information about how they can slice the data. And second, because when you have high volumes, this is much better in terms of performance. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to say, okay, I need this column to create the relationship. but I'm gonna hide them in the report view. And trust me, this is really, really useful because I'm just gonna do it here. Hide in report view, hide in report view as well from this one. So competition, yep. The best practice is to always hide what we call in BI the foreign keys in your fact table. So this is a fact table, okay? It has foreign keys, which means keys or fields that are linked to dimensions. And the best practice is for your business users to always hide these keys in the report view. Because now, if I go to the report view, these columns still exist, but they are not available to the business user here on the report view. So really useful. Okay, so analysis. One of the best practice in Power BI is to rebuild explicitly using the DAX language. DAX stands for Data Analysis Expression. So yeah, one best practice is to rebuild explicitly some measures which are calculated implicitly by the model. So let me explain. This is an implicit measure. Because it has a whole number, Power BI is able to aggregate it, right? One of the best practice in Power BI is to rebuild this measure explicitly. Why? I see two main reasons. The first one is mostly because you will be able to embed these measures, these custom measures in other measures. And also it will make your code, your DAX code, much cleaner and much easier to write because there is IntelliSense in DAX, the fact that you have support when you are typing in your measures. So it's really useful if you have made the effort to store your measures, your explicit measures. So that's I will do here. I will create a new measure, which will be total goals, and it will be just the sum of my goals, right? So I created it in the main table, which seems to be pretty logical. I'm gonna do the same for assists. Total assists equal sum of my assists. Okay, great. So now I have these brand new measures. I need another measure which is not present in my table, which is simply the number of games played by Messi, right? For the moment, I don't have the information here, right? So this is what you should always do in Power BI. I need something, so I need the games. How can I translate this in a Power BI language, in a DAX language? So here it's pretty simple. If you go to the main table, I think you will all agree that one row equal one game, right? So if I count the number of rows I have in this table, I'm basically counting the number of games played by Lionel Messi, right? So there we go. Number games equal count rows of my main table. Great. And thus, I will be able to create another KPI that I need and that we identified at first, which was the number of goals per game, right? And you're gonna see that because I made the effort to create these measures, now it's gonna be pretty simple to build these custom measures. New measure, goals per game, equal. So I don't know what is your background. I have an Excel and VBA background. And when you do some ratios in Excel and also VBA, you have to do some if statements to get rid of the case when you have to divide by 0, right? If, error, and so on. Okay. There is a function in DAX which makes the syntax much simpler. It's called divide. So divide will take 3 parameters. The first one will be the numerator, so total goals. And now you see why it's so helpful to have created these measures, okay? Because I have them available in my other measures. I can embed these measures in other measures. So total goals, sorry. Denominator, the number of games. And then this parameter, which is called alternate results. And this will cope with the case when you have to divide by 0. So in this case, I will just put 0. Okay. Great, so a bit of formatting. Okay, so now we have pretty much everything we need. Let's go and do the most exciting part, the visualization part, right? Now I want to really have insights from this data. I want to be able to provide a really beautiful dashboard. So I see we have 15 minutes left. I have a lot of things to show you. I will quickly show you some formatting. I'm going to go to the View tab and show the grid lines. This will help me align my graphs and so on. So I'm going to create my first graph. So it's so easy to create some really good graphs in Power BI and so on. Simply drag and drop. As you know, I'm going to see my data by competition. I want to see the number of goals. Okay, there we go. I'm going to sort this. And I have a trouble, which is so painful. I'm sure you hate it. This one. How many of you have experienced this in your Power BI journey? Yeah. So I made it on purpose. I wanted to cover this case. I have this blank category, right? But I mean, I don't want to see this in my report. What is happening? So first, we need to understand why it is happening. This is simply because I'm using the competition, which is coming from the competition table, to slice my data. But this table is not complete. I mean, there are competitions here, but there are only a few of the competitions that are present in the fact table. Actually here, these are the competitions I really wanted to focus on my report, right? So the two most important ones with the club, Liga and Champions League, and the two most important ones with his national team, Copa America and World Cup. But in my fact tables, there are other competitions that I simply wanted to exclude from my analysis. So I could have filtered them manually in the query editor, or I can leverage the page level filters. Here, you can apply some filters to your dashboards, right? So I'm simply gonna put a filter at the report level, which means that it will be applicable to any pages of the report. And I'm just gonna get rid of the blank, okay? This is not really a best practice, but I just wanted to cover this case to show you how to treat the blanks and also where do these blanks comes from, okay? So I'm just gonna do a little bit of customization. So I'm gonna get rid of the x-axis, show the labels, probably make them a little bit larger. I'm gonna customize my title as well, total goals. The font color will be this one. Okay, I'm gonna make this right. The border maybe. Okay, so here I have my first graph. And the good news is that you can leverage the most popular shortcut in the world, Control-C, Control-V. And I want to see the same thing for my assist, right? You can just amend the title to assists. Great. I want to see also by over time. So I'm going to leverage my calendar table so I can see my data by year, so total goals and total assists. And I benefit from the fact that all the graphs within the same page in Power BI are interactive. So I can really quickly slice my data and see only the evolution of Messi goals by year for a particular competition and so on. Okay, so you got the point. Since we have 10 minutes left, I'm not gonna build the whole dashboard with you. You get the point. Simply customize one graph, copy paste, leverage the snap grid, and also leverage the competition and calendar table, which are your dimension table, to create really useful dashboards, right? So I'm simply gonna erase this, and I'm gonna show you this one, which is pretty much the same, but with a little bit more graph. So this is exactly the same model, okay? Same tables, same stuff in the query editor and so on. Yep, so I have my data per year, per competition. I also have a very useful information that I wanted to focus here is I wanted to see how many games per number of goals. So this gives me, okay, Messi played 245 games with 0 goal, 156 games with 1 goal, and so on. So this is kind of a pyramid because I wanted to see what is the distribution of each games. Obviously, you're gonna tell me here that I'm using pretty basic graphs. It's true. I built this dashboard maybe 6 or 8 months ago. I had just discovered the tool. Maybe if I had to build it now, I would probably leverage more custom visuals, more advanced graphs. But I really wanted to build quite a simple dashboard, right? So these are the metrics I wanted to measure as well, the games, the goals, and the assists, and so on. I'm gonna, let's say, finish the design of this dashboard with you. I'm gonna import a page background, okay? The field one, which I'm gonna adjust and put like this. I'm gonna get rid of the grid lines. I will also import an image, okay, the logo of the club, pretty good one. I can also add a text box to say global stats. Okay, great one. This a little bit larger. And there is one last thing I want to show you is to import custom visuals. So how many of you know these custom visuals in Power BI? Yeah, okay. So I will just quickly show you how to import these and what it looks like. So these visuals are basically external visuals, which are not part of this field. So they are developed either by community members or by Microsofties, sorry, which are not part of the Microsoft Power BI team. And from the June 2017 Power BI Desktop release, you have the ability to import custom visuals directly from Power BI Desktop. So you need to sign in with your account. I'll just sign in with my Power BI account, Office 365 account, sorry. So I can import these custom visuals, which are in the Office store. This is totally free. And this definitely extends all the possibilities in terms of visualization, right? So there are really, really cool stuff, some funny stuff as well. I saw someone with making a dashboard, yeah, with this one. You can create an aquarium and the biggest is your metric, the biggest is the fish within the aquarium, so it's quite funny. I'm not sure you will present this to your boss, but anyway, I'm just gonna grab one which is pretty classic, but I really like, is the chiclet slicer. So here is the custom visual. It's external to Power BI, but I'm gonna be able to grab it here. It will appear on my report. This is this one, chiclet slicer, and I can leverage it as if it was a normal graph. And I will simply put the football season here. Just gonna do a little bit of formatting. Okay, columns, just one column. Get rid of the header. And just making sure my interactions are okay. So I'm gonna do this, this, this. Okay, so I can easily, oopsie, sorry, I'm gonna, yeah, this one. And as you can see, Messi still hasn't scored this season, okay? One more thing is, I wanna leverage this football season column that I just explained you. So how to do that? I mean, I want to see in the same graph, I want to be able to make my axis dynamic. I want to be able to see it either by column, by calendar year or by football year. Unfortunately, for the moment, you cannot use measures in your axis, but there is a trick. I'm simply gonna put the football season here just below the year, and I will be able to leverage my drill down functionality. It's kind of a hierarchy, and I will be able to see Messi stats either by calendar year or by football year. Okay, simply a switch like this. I could actually do the same here with the competition, because I have an information about the type of competition, and I could see that, yeah, impressive. In the competition I decided to focus on, Messi scored 443 goals with his club and only 8 with the national team. And you could easily bring in more information. For example, why not putting here in the color saturation, the goals per game. 0.89, sorry, 0.26. So there is no debate. Lionel Messi is much better with Barcelona than with his national team. I found some other pretty cool insights as well. For example, if I filter here, so this tells me, okay, these are the games where Messi scored once. And when Messi scores once, his team has 80% chances of winning. So this is quite impressive. And a friend of mine, I showed him this dashboard yesterday, and he told me, man, you should bet. Okay, anyway. So this is only a teaser, or let's say a preview of this dashboard. I built so many other pages on this Power BI dashboard. I will send you the link so you can explore some insights. I really found interesting stuff. Some of them were surprising, but yeah, I will let you the surprise of discovering it. I'm gonna show you the last part of our famous iceberg, the sharing part, right? Because for the moment, everything is local. It's available on my PBIX file, my Power BI desktop file. I want to be able to share this dashboard to other people, right? So there is a solution, which is clearly not a best practice, but most of the clients like it because it's totally free, is that you simply save this local PBIX, right? And you send it by email to other people, right? And if they have Power BI desktop installed, they will be able to interact with the data and so on. They will not be able to refresh. Well, maybe this one they will be able to refresh because all the sources are either internal or like web services, so they have access to it. But this is clearly not best practice, and this is not the spirit of the tool, right? Because it is a Microsoft tool, you can leverage Office 365 and Power BI service to go much beyond this type of sharing, right? So I'm gonna publish this using my Power BI account, my Office 365 account, sorry, to either my workspace or Office 365 groups, which I belong to in my company. So I will simply just select my own workspace. And this will basically publish this report into the cloud, into the web portal, the Power BI service, or I don't know which names you could have heard of, maybe, yeah, Power BI web portal. So let me open it. And this will open Power BI service. I'm logged in with my Office 365 account. So this lands on my workspace. I have this dashboard. I can interact with it. Great. I can do pretty much all the same things as I did in Power BI desktop in terms of consuming the data. I have an associated data set, okay, which is called Lionel Messi, which I can actually, let me show you this. I can either refresh manually or set up some schedule refresh directly from Power BI service because I have a personal gateway installed on my personal computer. So I don't want to be annoyed and anytime the data is refreshed, go back to Power BI desktop, refresh manually the data, republish the report. I can do everything here and make the iceberg maybe as a virtual cycle. I just want to make some schedule refresh. So I have a gateway installed on my computer, okay? And I can either refresh my data manually from the service here or schedule some refresh. Like, I don't know, you can do it, I think, up to 20 times, no, 12 times a day with a free Power BI account. So yeah, I can set up some refresh, and this will basically update the tool without the need to having Power BI desktop open. Because I'm using the personal gateway, I just need to have my own computer turned on, and it needs to be connected to the internet. You can also use, in a business context, on-premise data gateway, which is installed on virtual machines, and which from each business users of the same company can connect to these gateways. You link some sources to these gateways, and you can make some schedule refresh of the data. So this is quite useful. In this context, because this is a personal project that I did on my free time, I used a personal gateway, and it's still working. I mean, I can schedule some refresh and do pretty cool stuff. The last thing I want to show you is the ability to create some dashboards. So I'm just gonna pin this page. This will create a new dashboard that I will call World Tour. Great. So this is a dashboard, the ultimate level of in Power BI service. So I can share it to other people. I can see some usage metrics. I can query the data using natural language. I can either, and this will be the end of this demo, optimize it for a phone view. So actually, let me quickly just do something else. Rather than pinning the page, I will just pin some elements of the report. 422. I just pin this one and this element of the dashboard. Board tour 2. And yeah, let's take this one. So this is my report. This is my dashboard, which has some parts of the report. I can drag and resize it to do whatever I want. Okay, this is ugly. Let's put it in an iPhone view. So this is the title of the dashboard. I can do whatever I want, customize just for the phone layout. Okay, I'll just do, whoops, yeah, this. Okay. And the last thing I'm going to show you is that you can use Power BI on your iPhone or on your Samsung or whatever. There is the Power BI app on Android Market and Apple Store. So I'll just quickly show you this. Oopsie, sorry. So this is the screen of my iPhone. I'm connected to Power BI with my account of the company. I will just go to my workspace and I will just use the dashboard we've just created together, right? This dashboard from my phone, I can share it to other people. I can set it as a favorite, and I can also use natural language to ask the data within the mobile. So I'll just go here. You have a digital assistant, which basically is going to replace our job in 5 years, right? So you can ask him some questions about the data. For example, total goals, let's say. So I'll just send him a text. It will interpret my query using natural language and return the data, finding some insights. For example, yeah, Liga has noticeably more goals. Okay, thank you. Goals per game, why not? And I can really keep the conversation going, even using voice. So this always works when I'm alone and never works when I show it to people. Let's try. For 2016. Okay, so these are the goals per game for 2016, right? So, to summarize, and this will be the end of this demo, in less than an hour, we started from nothing, from scratch. Okay, we had just some ideas. We built a Power BI dashboard. So we connected to data, we cleaned it, we create a model, we create some graphs, KPIs, and so on. And we ended up with a pretty interactive dashboard that has schedule refreshed and that I can query on the mobile using natural language. Pretty good, no? Well, thank you very much for being here. I was really happy to do this session with you. I hope you could grab some stuff, and I will be more than happy to chat with you during the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.